Alright, hey guys, A&D Powers here. Today we're going to be talking about our R22 Induction system, which is a float type carburetor system. Now this system gets its name from an actual float that's in the fuel chamber that regulates the amount of fuel that is mixing with the air in the carburetor. Now the air is coming from either our fresh air vent, which is filtered, or our carb heat scoop, which is unfiltered air. So this is the basic shape of our carburetor here. We have our fresh air coming in, or our air coming in from our carb heat. We have the venturi, which I have labeled here. We'll get into that a little bit deeper here in a bit. And we have our butterfly hinge up here at the top. Now this is just the basic shape of our carburetor. And here we're going to go a little bit deeper. Now, I have a bunch of things labeled, so pay attention. Alright, we got our air coming into our venturi, which I had labeled earlier. And now, we have our added fuel chamber with our little float in the float chamber. We got fuel here. This is fuel coming from our fuel tank right here into the float chamber, and now this is fuel leaving the float chamber and going into the venturi. Now, in the venturi, our air is starting to speed up, and according to who? Bernoulli. He says that anytime a liquid or air speeds up, the pressure is going to drop. Now, since our atmospheric pressure is staying the same here in our float chamber, and the pressure here is dropping in the venturi, this allows the fuel to get pushed out into the venturi, which then mixes with the air, goes through the venturi, passes the butterfly valve, which can open or close depending on what is going on in the intake manifold where it's burning up. Now, we're going to take a few steps back, and I'm going to start explaining some of this stuff a little deeper. So we'll start with the fuel chamber. Now, we have our fuel intake coming here from our fuel tanks, and that goes directly into our fuel chamber, and that is controlled by our float type carburetor system. Now, the float has a little chain on it, or a little pulley system that is connected to a door right here. So fuel goes up, it's going to close the door. Fuel goes down, it's going to open the door. Now that regulates the amount of fuel that's in here, so we always are keeping around the same atmospheric pressure in our fuel chamber. And now we have our fuel outtake right here that's going into the venturi to be mixed with our air. And we have our mixture needle that is connected to that, and that's regulating exactly how much fuel is getting out and mixing with the air. Now our mixture needle goes up, it's connected to the mixture in the cockpit. Most carburetors, I think all of them actually, are calibrated at sea level with the correct fuel to air ratio with the mixture in the full rich position. However, when you start going up in altitude, the air becomes less dense, and so you're going to need less fuel to mix with that. So you're going to want to lean the mixture. In the R22, we usually stay away from doing that and have mixture full rich all the time, and that is to help us not develop carburetor ice, which we'll get into a little later. So now we're going to switch over from our fuel tank to our actual carburetor with the venturi. We're going to explain that a little deeper. So here we have our fuel chamber that we just talked about, and our fuel coming into the venturi here. So we have our air coming in through our air intake or the carb heat, and that's going into a venturi. Now the venturi is causing the air to speed up. It's going into restricted space, so there's not as much room, so it has to go faster. And now Bernoulli's principle states that anytime an airflow or a liquid speeds up, there's going to be a drop in pressure. Now that drop in pressure is going to be felt most right here. So Now there's high pressure here, low pressure here. That causes the fuel to be pushed out right into the venturi and mixed with our airflow. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at the butterfly hinge and go a little bit into carburetor ice. Now, a butterfly hinge is just a fancy word for just our throttle hinge. That's connected to the throttle, and it opens and closes as we're going up with the collective and the correlator, and how that's all connected. That's another day. So yeah, you have your butterfly hinge here, and this is actually creating two more venturis, which is, it was hard to understand for me at first, but it's kind of, if you look at it, it kind of makes sense. So there's faster air here, faster air here. Now, every time that there is a drop in pressure, there is also a correlating drop in temperature. So we have our drop in pressure here, because our air is speeding up. So that means the temperature up here is getting colder. And now that's going to cause carburetor ice. So you're going to get carburetor ice here, you're going to get carburetor ice here, and you're going to get carburetor ice here, and you're going to get carburetor ice here. Alright, so I've drawn our other side of our venturi here so we can go a little deeper into carb ice. Carb ice is one of the main disadvantages of our float type carburetor system, just because of its tendency to ice. Due to our lower pressure here in the venturi, lower temperature also coming with the lower pressure, causes our ice to build up here, 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 and here. Now, carb ice can form anytime the temperature is below 70 degrees Fahrenheit and above 80% humidity, but it's also been found around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, so it can really get up there. Now, carb ice, if allowed to form, can actually just build up so much that it completely restricts all airflow going to the engine, the intake manifold, and that is gonna kill the engine, and we don't want that to happen. So pull that carburetor heat up, and it's gonna take a while to get that ice out of there, but the main thing you want to do is make sure that you don't get any ice in there. Alright, we're going to finish up with a little bit of review here. Carburetor system is a float type carburetor system. Our venturi encompasses Bernoulli's principle. Fresh air vent and carb heat vents are where the air comes from. Fresh air is filtered, carb heat is unfiltered. And another thing I forgot to say is that every time we pull carb heat, it enriches the fuel-air mixture. Butterfly hinge acts as a second venturi. It's also just our throttle hinge. And a fuel chamber is where the float is located, and that's where it derives its name from. Alright, and review continued. Carb ice. Anytime temp is below 70 degrees and relative humidity is above 80%. And when you can get carb ice, just the last few things here. Anytime before big descent, anytime your map is below 18 inches, and anytime the carb temp gauge is in the yellow, you're going to want to pull up carb heat. Any questions? Alright, thanks.